Welcome everyone to a casted game for Age of Empires 4! And today, spawning on the west side of the map, playing in red, we've got beastyqt playing as the English. And up against them today, spawning in on the east side of the map, playing in blue, we've got GIF Music playing as the House of Lancaster. Welcome everyone to Dry Arabia. As always, hope you're all having a fantastic morning, good afternoon or good evening. Oh, Floaty Scout once again. Interesting. Hopefully that's going to be changed. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but what is going to be changing are the civilization selections that you have coming soon in a couple of months. We have got the new Dynasties of the East DLC announced, 4 new variant civilizations, super exciting times. I mean, I know there's been a lot of backlash about it being variant civilizations, but I gotta say, they look to be playing very different from their base civilizations, and it feels like they're variant in all but name, because they seem to play with very different playstyles, new units, in fact, even new resources. You've got the Macedonians with silver. So exciting times for sure. Of course, like everyone else, it would have been pretty amazing if there were new civilizations, but we'll take what we can get maybe next time on the next DLC. But for today, we're going to be having the English versus the House of Lancaster. Relatively slow to get going civilizations at times. Of course, one civilization being the variant of the other, the English being the OG, the old kind of civilization from the launch of Age of Empires 4. We've got the House of Lancaster, the newest DLC, being their variant. Of course, Beasty on the left and GIF on the right. Kind of curious because Beasty does have a forward gold, so he potentially might be thinking about a second town centre just to protect this area, especially with the deer camp quite close by. Like a TC here would be like a really nice spot to protect the deer and the gold. On the other side of things though, the Lancaster Castle going to be the landmark of choice, no real surprises there, and as usual, goes on the gold. Interestingly enough, also should protect the stone and the deer, which is obviously very important, the deer for food of course, and the stone for manners. A big part of their economy of course. If you don't know, I'd be surprised if you didn't, but this is the real kind of powerhouse of the House of Lancaster. Generates 45 wood and 60 food per minute. Not to mention, of course, does increase the population space by 10. Something to be considered for sure. And it is going to be a second town centre here for Beasty. A good number of villagers on stone, bringing the sheep back home. What I am kind of curious to see actually is what people think about the new variant civilizations. Which ones do you think are going to be your favourite? I like the fact that they're very different. I mean, you've got things like the Tughlaq, which are going to have the elephants, which is kind of amazing to see. The Tughlaq dynasty. 3 new elephants, one being a worker elephant, a ballista elephant, and a raider elephant. That's it. Looks to be quite fast on its feet by the trailer as well, which could be pretty cool. It's going to be elephants galore, especially considering they're not actually going to have a light cavalry, would you believe? The raider elephant going to replace that. Kind of bonkers to think about. There's going to be lots of elephants. And plus, don't forget, there's going to be the healer elephant, so maybe it's more than 3 years. But either way, there's the healer elephant too. Of course, none of those will be on show today because we've got the Abbey of the Kings and we've got the English with the... well, the King play is quite typical actually when you go 2 town centres. You want to at least have a unit or 2. And of course, Beastie will have that in the form of the King. But we're nearly there to the feudal age. But yeah, I'm kind of curious to see what you guys feel the most popular civilization will be of the variant civilizations, or which one do you think you'll play the most or are looking forward to the most. Let me know in the comment section below. I think the Golden Horde is going to be pretty popular. For the Mongols variants, kind of curious because they can actually build palisade walls, would you believe, and their buildings can't pack up, so they are very different from where the normal Mongols play. The castle has now been built, and the first manor already being built up by GIF. Now, I would like to say, by the way, for everyone who has been supporting the channel, big thank you, especially the YouTube channel members and the Twitch subscribers. Especially because I haven't been super active recently. And that's because, well, I did go abroad for quite some time with work. Well, actually, that was a holiday. But I've been busy with work as well. And I kind of lost a bit of motivation casting games. I felt a lot of the games were kind of a bit same. I mean, the matchups were pretty typical. But I've been seeing some games recently, and players have been playing very different styles. So hopefully we'll be casting those sorts of games in the future. And of course, with the new DLC coming up, it's kind of brought my hype back to Age of Empires 4. Good few villages on stone for GIF, but that, of course, is for the manners, as he does start to build his second. So it's definitely going to be a relatively slow start to the game. Both players, you know, macroing it up. Beasty with the second town center. A little bit further out than I thought it would be. But understandable, because ultimately when you think about your TC placement and the second town center, you're wondering how much pressure are you going to be under, right? Because, I mean, ultimately the TC is not particularly strong. Only 2,500 HP. Only can garrison 8 villages inside. But the big thing to question is, yeah, essentially, how aggressive is your enemy going to be? And the House of Lancaster typically aren't that super aggressive. They can actually press a magic button for the Lancaster castle, which can then draft in a good number of units. But that's not until a little bit later on usually, because the number of units you get depends on how many manors you have. And so you want to build up a good number of manors and then press the button and then get a good number of units. As the king makes his way across the map. Just going to poke his head through, see what he can do. But one thing to think about the dynamic of this matchup now is that whilst the manors are generating passive resources, the second town center for the English will be certainly helpful. He's actually going to get a villager here, I would imagine. Yeah, he will. Yeah, he gets one. Good night. Nice snipe off there. And it's going to run on out. Did try to shoot with the short bows, but wasn't able to take out the king in the end. Only 18 HP, but it doesn't really matter because he's just going to come back home, heal up at the Abbey of the Kings. He's even been able to go out onto the deer camp, which is actually kind of huge. I think this is actually often overlooked for the English. I know they get obviously the English farms, which are cheaper, but ultimately you want to get every resource you can off the map. We'll be getting an outpost there too, just to give a bit of line of sight and also protection in case he does come under fire. Of course, the House of Lancaster villagers do herd sheep a little bit faster, 20% faster as it happens. So these villagers are quite happy underneath the town centre. Having said that, you know, taking the deer is not always a bad option. Not necessarily because of the gather rate advantage, because of course the 20% on the sheep is quite nice, but more importantly, like, sheep is a safe resource, right? You just plonk it underneath your town centre, villagers there, happy gathering, whereas the deer camp a bit more exposed, and whilst the game is quiet, maybe that's the time to take advantage, just like Beasty is. Speaking of going slow, Beasty will be walling up. We'll be protecting this relic there as well. Behind the base, behind the walls, safe and secure. Looks like he might be thinking about the castle age behind this as well. No production building for him. So second town centre into the castle age. Rather greedy, but understandable because, well, Jiff is doing the same. He's being very greedy himself. Looks like Jiff might just edge it there to the castle age, which means he will have the pick of the relics. And of course, I mean, a lot of it's coming down to the fact that Beasty did go for the second town centre, right? So he's kind of traded off extra economy for a slightly slower castle age time. Jiff has gone for the tech up, the castle age time, with the little bit of a hit on the economy. Although we say that, but I mean, you know, the manors are very helpful with this. Bear in mind as well, if he can pick up the lion's share of the relics, he will catch up on the economy. And it's not all that uncommon that a lot of civilizations after the Sultan's Ascend DLC started placing town centers even in the castle age. You go for a fast tech up, pick up relics, and then get a second town center to catch up with your enemy. If you go for the King's College, you'll be housing some research special for the House of Lancaster. But more importantly, the big thing about this landmark is the fact that it reduces the cost of all researchers by 15%. That includes all your blacksmith upgrades, your economy upgrades. It's very, very nice indeed. Now, it doesn't quite have enough wood for a monastery, and that's because he's opening up with a stable. So looking to get some units out in the castle age quickly to put some pressure on the map, and as long as he can maintain map control, he should be able to pick up a good number of relics. The other side of things here for Beasty, it's going to be the White Tower to protect this juicy 8,000 gold vein. It does mean that the play for sort of a second town center for Jiff probably makes a lot more sense. Because the thing is, if he starts just cranking out units and try and, put pressure on, you can't really take out the second town centre, so you'd probably have to break down through the palisades, go around the back of the base. And there's not a lot of economy to hit for him, really, here. You'd have to dive in quite deep into massive English arrow fire, and so sort of an all-in play is maybe not on the cards here for the Castle Age House of Lancaster. We'll have to see, though, because you know, we've seen some crazy things in Age of Empires 4. Monastery is built straight away. He's going to be getting a monk to go for the relic as soon as he can. I don't think that's quite in the range, so he should be able to gather. He should be able to gather that. Yeah, he should be. Well, having said that, the White Tower is able to produce units extra fast, so we might see some coming out pretty quickly. Doesn't quite have the food for it though. Oh no, I didn't have the workers on the village account at the beginning of the game, did I? You guys are going to give me stick for that? Okay, well I apologize. Maybe I'll remember next time. I'm a little bit rusty. Either way, at this point we don't need build orders, do we? We've had these civilizations for such a long time. Alright, a couple of knights. Just going to guard this monk. First relic will be picked up for Jiff. He's venturing out onto stone. Yeah, I think he is planning a second town centre. He's got plenty of wood in the bank to get it. Just needs that stone. He's kind of overcompensating with 12 villagers, but he wants to get that quick time, right? He's got the wood in the bank already, so why not? First relic on the way. Another monk going to be coming out soon. I love the fact that he's kept a horseman here, Beasty, just to protect this relic, because he knows that he won't want to give them all up. And the king here on the relic on the east side. Again, to protect. There is a knight charges on in, but this is a castle age knight, so he should be able to beat the king. Or at least give him a good run for his money. And the king's not too bad on the stats. Oh, second knight comes on in as well, so yeah, king will have to back away. As the first relic is deposited by Jiff. And he should be making his way to the second. One horseman won't cut it here, though. So he will lose his life to the charging in. Beasty's aware of it, but there's not much he can do about it, really. Oh, he nearly picked up the relic himself. Couldn't quite get it. In fact, Jiff might spot this and he might snipe the monk, which is huge. Because not only is he getting away with his own relic, with his own monk, he's going to snipe out Beasties. Making it even harder for Beastie to contest the relics on the field. I guess really here for Jiff, there is kind of... wait, where are all the relics? There's one in the south here, which is already protecting. The monk on the way. So the relic war, relic grab, certainly in favour of Jiff. And he has placed his second town centre on the deer camp, keeping that nice. And tucked in underneath the Lancaster castle. So he had a plan for the deer camp in the end anyway. Oh, running into the... Oh, wolf. Got the brunt of the White Tower fire there. Trying to snipe this beastie. I'm not sure if he... I mean, he might get it, actually. He should be able to catch up with this. Yeah, he does. He spots it. He charges on in. No Wallow for Jiff, so he will lose the monk. 2 knights there. I mean, I don't think he can really challenge that, right? There's just too many spearmen. But he's sending more knights. I think he fights this, right? Just sheer numbers. Knights obviously are countered by spearmen, but when you've got the numbers, they can do pretty good job. And if he fights it all together, yeah, he's going to charge on in. It's going to go for the monk. In fact, oh, he will lose one. Oh, maybe not. He just got about there. Not much health on that knight, but he sniped up the monk. That's the big thing there. Beastie losing the monk is huge because you can't then bring the relic back without another monk being on the way. And he hasn't yet sent one. Oh, does engage, charges on in. This could be a good engage, actually, as it happens. The army kind of split there for Beastie, and he's pulling away the weak knights. I like this micro by Jiff, or they will lose one. Kind of got stuck there. He's taken the fight. I mean, in the end, he probably will win it, but not without some severe casualties. But the big thing is that he's picked up the relic. He's weak. These knights are super, super weak. He's got to make sure he saves. Oh, he saves it. Nice. 19 HP on that one. He saves that one too. Very nice micro there by Jiff. Only 6 HP on that guy, and he runs away with the relic too. Giving him the third, oh, in fact, 4th relic. He picked up the other one too in the meantime. He's even going for the sacred sites. I love this play by Jiff. Really maximizing the use of the map control. And he's even bolstering his economy behind this. Granted, he is behind on villagers, but you've got to factor in the manners, right? So economy-wise, it does feel like Jiff is probably slightly ahead. Going to try and get the walls up here. I don't think he's going to get there in time. Beastie going to try and deny that. But from a defensive perspective, I think that Beastie's got a nice map, right? There's this entrance point here on the left. It could be burnt through the palisades, but there's not a lot that will be hit. Well, gee, there might be. Those berries get saturated with villagers. But the big thing is, the big focal point is probably here where there's the White Tower. And that's where his production is as well. So if Jiff really wants to do some damage, that's probably where he has to head towards. Oh, horsemen should be able to pick off a couple of villagers here. They're going to go through the walls, the gates rather. So we'll hang on to them for now. So the horsemen have to go the long way around, but the cavalry, the knights might cut them off. Maybe not. The horsemen, of course, are a bit faster. Uses the charge mechanic to get them a little bit quicker. Does save the villagers in the end. Come out to wall again. This time, though, he should be able to get the wall, especially with the 3 knights guarding. I love the positioning of the units here for Jiff. It's really working in his favour. As the second sacred site has been capped for him. No researchers from the King's College just yet. Oh. Was he trying to get that relic? Maybe it was the sacred site. Either way, takes care of the horsemen around the back. Now, there was a relic here, so did Beasty get that? Yeah, he did indeed. So it's going to be a 4 relic to 1, which is kind of expected. Well, I mean, it's better than expected, I guess, because there was some pressure from Beasty. But Beasty certainly would have expected to have got one of them, and that's what he got at least. Oh, Jiff loses a villager to the wolf. We've all been there. The Beasty infantry. Jiff. Let's take care of this, though. Ah, there we go. Alright, well, this is the time in the game when things do start to spice up a little bit. It has been relatively quiet, mostly just to play for the relics. Both players macroing it up, but now both players are starting to get a decent chunk of army together in the Castle Age. Primarily knights and a good number of veteran yeomen here for Jiff, making use of the unique unit for the House of Lancaster and the range that they have. That's a lot of spearmen. I mean, weirdly enough, Beasty won't... I mean, the yeoman will be great for this, but if the spearmen can actually gap close, get close to the yeoman and just use their melee attacks, they could do some work. Obviously, it's not ideal. You don't really want to be fighting yeoman with spearmen. I mean, I guess he's just worried about all the knights, right? He's probably going to have to make a switch. One thing to consider, though, is where Beasty goes from this. When he does see the number of yeomen, he could potentially think about lancers or knights himself. Potentially even man-at-arms. Essentially, heavily armoured units would be the way forward. Which doesn't necessarily... and it's not necessarily something that Beasty will hate. Because, of course, the English do like getting heavily armoured units. Well, every civ, really, likes to get heavily armoured units as the game wears on. Generally, the direction that Age of Empires 4 games take, of course, because of the prominence on gold units. Gold units are typically better. And it's usually the armoured units that cost the gold, so... In this scenario, though, it's the light units and the non-gold units that are doing some damage. Getting a villager, sniping out a knight there with the spearman. Good engagements for Beasty. Every little bit helps. Takes out the horseman, but it looks like Jiff Music might be thinking about getting to go because... I mean, he's got to make a decision, right? He has to actually go and attack with the army he has or think about the Imperial Age because he's got a good economy behind all of this. Feels like Imperial Age could be a bit greedy, especially considering the number of units Beasty has, and he's now moving out with the outpost to get the network of castles bonus, which of course increases the increases the attack speed by 20%. Taking the berries. That's the case for both players. It's like they're kind of meeting towards the middle, though. They could take an engagement. There's so many spearmen, and he might be trying to go for a bit of a pincer attack. But where are the yeomen? They're trailing behind. They're coming in now. Oh, spearman brace. Knights didn't quite engage, which is probably just as well, because he wants the yeoman to be there too. He does have some Earl's Guard. That could be a really nice unit to include here. So do throw their axes. Yeoman firing in the back line. I mean, those spearmen, they have to dash out of there. Although he could turn and fight. Those knights getting way too close, it feels. It could just... Uh-oh. He's getting a couple of free hits, to be fair, though. Oh, he does turn around. Jiff paying attention, but he loses 3-4 knights. It's almost, like, inevitable that happens. But he's facing the Earl's Guard with the spearmen, which will do a lot of damage, those Earl Guards. They should be able to hold against these spearmen heavily. But a good number of spearmen do get on top of the yeoman. A couple of horsemen around the back, but a good number of knights. Beasty has to head back here. He doesn't have enough. He doesn't have enough of the right units either. These yeomen should be able to just pick off a couple more spearmen on the retreat. Look how much range they have. Holy moly. And this is where things become a bit dicey for Beasty, right? He has to make a tech switch. And he's going for barracks. So, oh, that's an archery range, in fact. Holy moly, what? Is he thinking about crossbows, maybe? I mean, the crossbows will be good for the lancers, the knights, but he's got to find a way to deal with the yeoman. Maybe man-at-arms. He's still producing spearmen, would you believe? He's got plenty of gold, so... Surprised to see him not spend on some gold units. It will be crossbows. To be fair, mass crossbows wouldn't be too terrible. They do great work against the cavalry, of course, in the form of the knights, but they can do a job against the yeomen as well. Just has to mass up enough of them. Behind this, though, Jiff needs to get some siege if he can. Like, the yeomen are great at picking off villagers and enemy units, but they're not great in terms of taking out buildings, right? They've just got no torch damage. He's going to have to focus and keep the knights to do that job. White tower focusing as well. We will take out the second town centre at least, which will mean that Jif's music economy should continue to scale better than Beastie's. Sends a couple of lancers round onto the wood line. Beastie just holding it together. He doesn't want to send his army until the last possible moment, but to save up as many units as possibly he can. Definitely the right play, and he does have a couple of man-at-arms on the field. Certainly feels the right play there. Jif, has he got any trebuchets on the way? He has got a siege workshop, so he is planning to do some damage, and he's taking out a lot of production buildings, which is kind of a problem for Beastie because it means he has reinvestment with wood to replace them. And the yeoman gets some great value against the spearman. He's got to back away now though, because that's a lot of man-at-arms. Man-at-arms, he's been pumping them, and if man-at-arms get on top of the yeoman, this could be devastating. He wants to hold his ground though, Jif. He does not want to let up, but he needs to take out the spearman, because if he doesn't, those knights will be devastated and he won't have much of a front line anymore. The big thing about yeomen is you've got to have a front line in front of them. Sends a couple of knights on the wood line. They'll take out some villagers, but will be taken care of in the end. Beastie though, he is struggling. He loses his standing army. He's under all sorts of pressure. Oh, there we go. Synchronized shot comes out for the yeoman. But a big problem here is that the yeomen aren't guarded. There's no front line for them anymore. Handful of lancers heading on in. But you can see a definite transition now for Beastie into man-at-arms, and it looks like, well, there were a few crossbows, but yeah, they are. There they are. It's going to be man-at-arms crossbows. You can see a definite change in plan. And Jif, whilst he's in a good spot in terms of aggression in his position on the map, and he's picking off villagers left, right, and centre, I don't know how long he can keep this up for, because he doesn't have a front line with his yeomen. And there's horsemen, there's man-at-arms, and once the man-at-arms get into those yeoman mass, they will hack and slash them, and then the range, which is really the big benefit for the yeoman, it just plays no role, right? Because, I mean, the man-at-arms will gap close eventually, and they're super tanky at this point with the second ranged armor. Beastie, though, will not want to dive underneath the keep, though, ideally. Amongst all of this, the crazy thing is that he's actually been managing to get gold on the north side of the map. He scouts this. This is a weird farming placement. It's very far forward. Guess he had villagers in the vicinity. But yeah, the lack of siege kind of hurting Jif. As I say that, the first trebuchet about to pop out. But can you see how many yeomen? I mean, there's not even enough to one-shot a man-at-arms. Jif's under a lot of pressure. He's in problems. There's not enough Elsguard, you feel, and even if there was, I mean, there's just so many crossbows behind. The synchronized shot comes off and does a decent job. But the mass man-at-arms play here for Beastie is looking ominous. At this point, with this number of man-at-arms, he could potentially even think about sieging that keep, because Jif can't really push us back. We have got to see a transition for Jif. We've got to see crossbows coming out, and there they are. Can he get enough of them out quick enough? That's the big question. 51 yeomen. Still not enough to one-shot a man-at-arm. That is intense. He's heading back now. Looks like he's going to group together with the trebuchet. He's got a decent number of Elsguards, but yeah, crossbows is really what he wants. You have to think about when it does get to the late game, which we're not there just yet, population efficiency wise, man-at-arms probably are better. The big thing is that Jif needs to deal with this game soon, because if this man-at-arms mass starts to escalate, the big thing often is the timing on the siege, right? You can have a good positioning on your enemy's base, but if you don't have the siege at the right time to continue the push, it can be a problem. Whereas Beastie's situation is, well, comes a situation where it does... Oh, synchronized shot on the villagers, gets a good number of them. The rest of them survive on very low health, but in Beastie's scenario, when he does continue his push, these man-at-arms themselves have torch damage, so he can just torch everything down. And so it makes the delay between being in a good position and having siege very minimal. Speaking of siege, does lose a trebuchet. Man-at-arms are really charging this down. There's not enough here for Jif. He has to retreat. He hasn't got the right units. He's got a good number of units, but not the right ones. This Beastie continues to pressure. He feels like he's got enough. I mean, the yeomen need to focus on the crossbows because they can't do much against the man-at-arms. The Elsguards have to focus against the man-at-arms, but there's just not enough of them, you feel. Beasty pulling the crossbows back as much as he can, but he's never going to win the range argument, right? He's never going to... Oh, synchronized shot. Never going to win against the range of the Yeoman. He's just going to push on through now, try and focus as many of the Elsguard. And now with no Elsguard here, Jiff Music under all sorts of pressure because these man-at-arms just don't care about these Yeomen. Good number of crossbows there for Jiff, but he needs more. And he needs to keep them protected. At all costs, really. Big thing behind this is that, look at this. We talk about not having siege or not needing it for Beasty. This is a case in point. He's just torching things down. Now, granted, he doesn't have boiling oil. But these man-at-arms are being sacrificed. But they're being sacrificed so that he gets a good position here, Beasty. And he's going to be able to raid with some man-at-arms as well. At least it looks like he's trying to. And this push has been taken care of. Looks like Jiff has got the units he needs now. Oh, monks face off there on the sacred site. But yeah, villagers having to... oh, this is biting him in the butt now. The forward placement of the farms. It was effective at the time in terms of not having to pull the villagers back with walking time, but now this is a lot of wood investment went into that. Now Jiff at still full population capacity, would you believe, which is kind of bonkers to think about. And he does have the efficiency in terms of the manners too. But his army is not where he wants it. He's having to retreat home, loses one of the sacred sites. Oh, Beasty moving his monk away. Oh, he's actually going to lose that because of that. Yeah. Oh, he's going to send a crossbow, so he should be fine. Oh, Mangonel's coming out for Beasty. Talked about not needing siege, but he's going to continue to make it. Because why not? Of course, the man-at-arms can torch, but if you can get siege, it's even better. He's going to keep... Yeah, he should keep the sacred site in the end. Just about. He's started to regroup Beasty. What a hold. And he's been able to not only hold, but push on through. Oh, I think Jiff's thinking about the Imperial Age. That could be devastating because Beasty's thinking about a push and he's got a strong push on the way. Especially considering the mangonels, right? Because, well, you think about Jiff's idea of going for crossbows, which is probably a good one. He needs them. They're super vulnerable to mangonels. And he's going to go for the Wingard Palace as well. So, no Berkshire Palace. Which means no extra defense for him. Once he does tech up, the question is, does he have the resources to pump out units? I feel like he does, actually. But he's going to need those upgrades. And this is often, we've talked about it on the channel before, is when you tech up to the next stage or upgrade your age, that's often when you're the most exposed or at risk. The transition to stable units too, so horsemen could be on the play. That could do well against mass crossbows, of course. Beasty seems to be one step ahead at this point. After being in a very vulnerable position, he's looking in a good spot. Man-at-arms going to dive on in. Good number of crossbows. Pick up a couple of villagers. Crossbows bracing, though, for Jiff. Oh, the thing is, he's gap closed. Beasty's man-at-arms got right on top of the crossbows, and there's just way too much army here. Where is Jiff's army? I mean, it's here in the south with the yeomen, but they're throwaway units. They're just not effective. Sure, they'll kill villagers, but the bigger problem is this army. Mangonel's deploy gets a... Well, he wasn't landing there for a second, but he does land with the second volley, and maybe the third. We'll see. And the big difference here is that now Beasty's pushing with siege with 3 trebuchets. Mangonel's decimating these crossbows. And the man-at-arms, that's just so tanky. Allowing the crossbows behind them to do the work. Yeah, sure, Jiff is getting some value here, but he's losing most of the army. And he needs the army replaced, to be fair, anyway. But what does he go for? He needs a composition, and just pure crossbows is not going to cut it. He needs a way to deal with the mangonels. Behind all this, though, the trebuchet is working on the manors. And that means devastating effects on the economy for Jiff. He's got a couple of Elsguard, but they are sniped by crossbows. These 4 mangonels almost proving impossible for Jiff to deal with. He's coming with a couple of horsemen, or hobblars, in fact. These are just the basic feudal ones, if I'm not mistaken. Takes out another mana. Jiff under all sorts of pressure. Coming down the... Oh, I'm not sure what happened there. Probably rang the bell. Either way, Elsguard's on the trebuchet, so he might get one, but he's committing hard. This is a big commitment, especially with 4 mangonels there. Beasty might lose the siege, but he's still getting... Oh, he's getting horsemen. The perfect timing on the counter. They'll devastate these crossbows. He loses the trebuchets. Horseman came out at the perfect time there for Beasty. He's going to get a massive surround on those crossbows. And Jiff, he's running out of steam. He's running out of options. He's running out of ideas. And the steam train that is Beasty's army right now. Going to take this base after this army, no doubt about it. Jiff down to 24 military. He was in a good spot earlier in the game, but Beasty shows why the yeoman just doesn't seem to do well in the late game. What a cracking game of Age of Empires 4. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and see you next time.